It's easy to look around and notice everything wrong in your city. In this podcast by Every Neighborhood Partnership, join Grace and Andrew as they invite friends, activists, pastors, leaders, and city workers to discover what's good in the neighborhood. Join us for insightful conversations that will encourage you to see your city and its people in a new way. You're listening to What's Good in the Neighborhood. Today, we get the opportunity to sit down with the man, the myth, the legend, the founder of Every Neighborhood Partnership, Artie Padilla. Artie has been in community development work and spaces for over 25 years, almost 30 years now. Today, he is the director of the Drive Initiative with the Central Valley Community Foundation. And man, oh man, Andrew and I just get to pick his brain for a little bit about what it was like starting EMP, what those early days were like, what's been the heartbeat of this organization since the beginning. And then from his vantage point, that 30,000-foot view of what's going on around the city, his perspective is unique. It's still filled with empathy after almost 25 years of work. So we're going to ask him how. How are you still doing it? This is a sweet one. It's part of our history. We hope you love it.
Welcome to What's Good in the Neighborhood. My name is Andrew.
I'm Grace.
Glad you are with us. Thanks for tuning in. As we're kind of in this New Year series, we figured let's just do some one-off episodes, and there's no one better to start the new year off with the Mr. Artie Padilla. How are we doing, Artie?
I am doing well. Thank you for inviting me to be here.
You all that are on YouTube can see, but those of you that listen online, we are in the Padilla conference room, named after the Artie Padilla. Artie is the founder of Every Neighborhood Partnership, but has many, many years of nonprofit experience and is a leader in our valley. So, Artie, maybe just for those of you that don't know you, which is probably very few people, but like those of you that don't, give us like a little bit of your kind of bio, resume. What have you spent your energies on?
Yep. Born and raised here in Fresno, college in LA, came back like most people do. Like you said, quickly got into the nonprofit sector right as soon as I got back. The first 16 years at the Elks Major Project, a nonprofit that worked with families that had kids with disabilities all over the state. Fresno just happens to be their headquarters. So worked there. Then I started volunteering with the Well, which led to me launching ENP back in 2008. And, obviously rode that through 2020. Then I shifted over to the foundation, which is still a nonprofit. So pretty much most of my career has been in the nonprofit sector, and grown in my knowledge and hopefully in the impact that I can help create through all of that lived experience.
Did you always imagine, was that the path and you went to college? No.
Yeah. Yeah, what did you go to college for?
Business administration is where I started.
Yeah.
Halfway through exercise science, I thought I'd get into the field of fitness and maybe even sports training, and then just kind of farted around with that for a while. And then said, I got to get done. So I went back to business to finish. And so, I took away a lot of good stuff from that, but really was not preparing me to be in the nonprofit sector.
And when you moved home from Fresno or back to Fresno, was that the plan? Were you okay, I went to school in LA, now I'm going to come back home?
I figured I'd come back for a season. Yeah. Life has its things that happen. Mm-hmm. And so you ride those things that happen, and I'm glad that my journey's here now. I think, guiding me, the Lord guiding me to the launching of my spiritual growth when I got back, and that really being parallel to my service to the community.
Yeah.
Those are still are parallel paths that I walk down.
Mm-hmm.
That's cool. As you, maybe let's we probably have never told the story. Just we can do it real briefly of EMP on the podcast. That would be my probably assumption.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah.
Well, I would love to hear from you. Like you said, you started volunteering at the well.
Mm-hmm.
Obviously, starting a nonprofit is very different from volunteering.
Yeah. So when the well actually was created as a church back in 2002, I quickly started attending the services. I think that the fall of the very first year is when someone on stage had shared about the Patty Project.
Okay.
So that's when the well partnered up with Susan B. Anthony Elementary, and I was just sitting there, right, just in church,
Yeah.
and it's like, I had been thinking like I need to start volunteering somewhere, because I was working at a nonprofit, but it's like that wasn't really focused on Fresno.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Their work was all over the state. And so I should start doing something. I just didn't know what that was, but like this popped up. It's like, hey, I like sports. I like kids. I get out there. That was a seemed like a natural fit. And so that experience of helping with Saturday sports, then just me getting entrenched relationally with the parents, the kids, the school, the staff at the school, started helping to get folks from the well into the classrooms. We started an after-school mentoring program, after-school Bible study. We actually launched a after-school program because Parks and Rec was doing it. Then they moved out, so there was no after-school program there. So I think we had it 3 days a week, all volunteer run.
Wow.
And we just flooded that campus with volunteers, at least 25, 30 a week. And the well, like they got on board with it. The folks were active, so that really helped. And it was that lived experience from 2002 to 2008. Those steps: Saturday sports, classroom, after school, in the neighborhood. By that time, I was already like facilitating some neighborhood conversations in the neighborhood, street cleanups. We were helping repair kitchens and this and that and remodels. Was the basic blueprint of ENP. We originally we had a five-step process. Yeah. So, I just had to. I knew how to run it. I didn't have like the operations manuals built out. It was all in my brain.
Yeah.
So, So launching the nonprofit, it was easier than what some people do because they have an idea to launch something, but they've never lived it out. I had lived it out.
Right.
Yeah. So it was easy for me to do that.
How often do you think you were on campus? Like for those 7 years, 6 years?
At minimal 3 days a week.
Wow.
Yeah. So sometimes every day. Well, I was probably there every day.
Yeah.
Because I would at minimal stop in the cafeteria in the morning and just talk to the kids. And then
unpaid volunteer.
Yeah.
Mr. Artie, Mr. Artie, Mr. Artie.
Yeah. So, that was a great experience. And it really opened up my mind to so many things like urban living. Because I live out just outside the city limits. Urban living, the challenges our families were dealing with just in life, with housing, the challenges that our school district has, right? The teachers, from the principals, just to the system, the education system, right? And then the challenges that they have as staff, but the challenges that parents have as parents for their kids, right? So many things were exposed to me, and thankfully, I'm always paying attention, right? So, what's happening within the education system? What's happening out in the neighborhoods? What are the barriers at the city level, at a neighborhood level? What are families dealing with personally within their home, right? So that is what the spark was to create ENP, with the purpose of if one church can have this impact in one school in one neighborhood, we've got 400 plus churches, we got all these schools. And why can't, so that was the original thinking, let's start matching up churches and schools.
What was the original, as you now think about your own transformation? So I just heard you say you paid attention, but one of my observations of you that I think I just so appreciate is you're a learner, you're present, and then you learn. And that combo has really guided your path throughout deep transformation in Fresno. What's the thing that you began to discover as you did just start Because it was very simple kid presence ministry, but like, what are some of the deeper issues you began to see in Fresno as you started?
Yeah. Well, and some of this stuff, it took me a while for the light bulb to come on. And Andrew, you were there when we started really having those trauma-informed conversations, right?
Yeah.
I was witnessing the manifestation of trauma without realizing it. It was trauma, even at Saturday sports, like, with kids, their behaviors and their actions and things like that, which, can be frustrating if you don't understand it, right? It's like, if you don't understand some of the behind the scenes stuff and like what people are going through in life, it just looks like bad behavior, right? So it's easy to make a judgment. And I did early on. But then you start learning about like, why kids act up, why, they just have this anger within them, and I've shared this story a lot, is like, at the end of Saturday sports, we'd always try to gather the kids, have a little positive message for them, maybe a biblical message. And, it's always hard to get the kids to just sit still even for 3 minutes, and before we pass out the lunches. And, it was just like, and at some point I said, like, like whoever wants to say and listen, great. The other ones they want to, as long as all I ask is just don't make a lot of noise while we're talking, right? I don't care. So, and then when I started helping out on campus a lot more, I started helping out with the holiday programs. And I remember at one holiday program, I was helping behind the curtain, getting the kids set up. Kids come in, they do their song, the next group comes in. But every time the curtain was closed, we were preparing, like the audience was just so loud and just like active. And I peeked out the window or the curtain, and I looked and I go, man, it's like, this is just like the kids at Saturday sports.
Yeah.
Right? And it's like, these kids are like, they learn it from their parents. We all learn things from our parents, and I, even then it's like, I was probably judging, because I didn't fully understand like the why. Right. So, but it wasn't until like, I learned so much more just about humanity and like the psychology of where people are and where they dwell in life because of the circumstances that are given to them, sometimes by not their choice, right? And how that impacts like how they behave, how it impacts their actions, how they use money, how they think about things. And we all do that, right? We're all just created from our past experiences, and that really shape us and who we are and how our thinking, our behaviors, and all that. So, yeah, that was a course of many years of doing, but then asking the why. Like, keep asking why. Don't just assume. Don't judge. Like, understand their journey, right? What's going on with them, and you have to build a relational trust for you to truly understand like what's really happening.
Yeah.
Some of the stuff is happening behind their front door, right? But it's kept there, and you don't really see it sometimes out there. So I was at a space where principals would, because I knew all the families, like say, hey, can you go swing by little Johnny's house? And he hasn't been to school, and it was those site visits that really, then I'd like, because then like, man, like I'd walk in and like the parents passed out on the couch, and the kids like, he said, well, I don't want to leave my mom or dad alone, right? It's like, well, I get that. So, I would eventually go back and go try to talk to the parent. Like, hey, it's like, what's going on? How can we help? And things like that. Just so, cause that like, and is that stuff that really got to my brain. It's like, we got to get to the deeper rooted issue of some of these things, whether it's a family issue or whether it's a system, like the education system. They all have deeper rooted issues that you really got to dig into to really make a change.
Ever wondered what makes your neighborhood unique? Or the history of your city that shapes the places you love? Well, now you can explore the city like never before, right from your own car, using the Voice Map app. Introducing Every Neighborhood Partnership's Drive Tour, a self-guided audio tour that brings your community's history, landmarks, and stories to life. As you drive through local streets, EMP's Drive Tour will guide you with fascinating insights from people, places, and events that have shaped your neighborhood. Whether you're discovering hidden gems, learning about community activism, or simply enjoying a fresh perspective on familiar places, This tour is a great way to connect to your community in a whole new way. So what are you waiting for? Tap into Every Neighborhood Partnership Drive Tour today on VoiceMap and get to know your community like never before. Download the VoiceMap app, search for Every Neighborhood Partnership Tour, and start exploring today. Fresno's story is waiting to be discovered.
When you think back on those moments, like those are hard, you know, to recognize like, oh, it shifted the way that my perspective, how I thought. And I love that you even said like, I was for sure judging. Like, what do you think it was just knowledge or education that shifted your heart posture towards that? Or do you think that it was like the close proximity or maybe a little bit of
I think
both?
it's all of it, but you have to have empathy, right?
Yeah.
You actually have to care, right? So if you don't care, it doesn't matter what you see, right? You can just walk on by, right? It's just like when
You place the label and then you
move on. Yeah, for sure. So you've got to have genuine care for like what, and you can't deal with everything, of course, right? So like you're limited in time, but you know what? Yeah, you've got to have you genuinely have to care about like what's going on around you.
So has your perspective shifted then of like, okay, this might not just be like a direct service issue, but there's also things that are happening beneath the surface, whether that be family system or actual system issues. How did that change the DNA of EMP? Because in the beginning, it sounded like it was just a lot of direct meet a need, see a need, meet a need.
Yeah, it was anchored in love and care.
Yeah.
EMP was created that way. I mean, that's the way the church is supposed to be out in the community, right?
Yes.
Grace, love, service. But the learning was a lot of the trauma-informed learning, but not entirely all that. Understanding how the historical context of like America and how America grew, how our economy grew, how our cities were developed, how Fresno was developed, and knowing that all of that mashes together, right? Because we all live in a city, but we have different zip codes, and the zip code that you live in might be dependent on how cities did development, 100 years ago, 150 years ago. Or longer if you're more on the East Coast. But it was when all of that stuff really started to like the light bulb came on probably around, I don't know, 2014, 2015. And then right around 2017, I helped kind of create the Fresno County Trauma and Resilience Network because I was learning all this stuff. And I wanted to asking my other CBO executive, are you seeing the same thing? As like, do you know about this ACEs study that was done in the 90s and all the studies and research has come from that? It's like, you probably ought to read it. So like, I just wanted to pass on this information that I was getting and at that point, we had great folks like Brian Simpson that was just he was so into this world. Yeah. And that's when we shifted from Saturday sports to recreational resilience, from classroom volunteering to literacy mentoring, right? From neighborhood outreach to neighborhood development, right? So we wanted to that was the evidence of our shift in thinking in the programmatic work to go beyond just service, but to attempt to look at things a little bit differently and address that root issue. Yeah.
And now, so you are at the foundation. The foundation has a valley representation and a valley view. How has that exploded, grown, changed your imagination for how these things are all connected?
Yeah. Well, so, I mean, the foundation, yes, covers like 7-8 counties here in the Central Valley. I would say up until our current CEO, Ashley Swearingen, became the CEO, it's very traditional foundation work. You find local donors, they put their money in, and then some of them, the donors dictate where the funds go. Some of them, they give us freedom but they give us guardrails of what they want to kind of fund. But then when Drive was created, Ashley wanted to create like more of a community change mechanism within Drive. So within the foundation, Drive was that first mechanism. So Drive really was very Fresno centric. So obviously it made sense as my transition came over. I was focused on the city. Drive is very Fresno focused. We have recently this past year added the Fresno County element to it. So it wasn't a big shift. I mean, Ashley did bring me over to help like build up the neighborhood development work within Drive, and then I became the Drive director. So the transition was good. What CBCF did for me was expose me to just a different network, a statewide network, new folks, new consultants from all over the country as we were building out Drive, a different network just within the current Central Valley Community Foundation network of donors and individuals was newer for me. And some of these folks were business owners and like from some of our major businesses here in the Valley. So that new networking has helped me, one, understand things from their perspectives as a business owner or an institutional leader or a regional person. And now CBCF has added S2J2, which is that 4-county region, a very focused work. And it's helped me better understand the economy in a different way and understand the nuances of how our economy works, how our city works in a deeper way too, the political landscape and, the nuances of that. So it just took a new ring of knowledge. I mean, I still try to drill down. It's like, well, how does all this stuff actually make an impact for our families in the neighborhoods, right? So, even with Drive, of which I'm responsible for, the one thing that keeps me up at night or I worry about the most, and it's not like I think about it every day, but is like if in 10 years, like we think we're successful in Drive, but you go out into the community and say, hey, like, did your quality of life improve? And if the vast folks say no, I was like, man, we missed the boat, right?
Yes.
We missed it. We struck out, right? Because if it doesn't matter if we bring in a lot of money, if those resources like doesn't get into the community, which whether it's helping them with their upward mobility and not just economic upward mobility, social upward mobility too, connecting them to other people to build their own networks, then that's what I'm constantly thinking about. How does this stuff actually make an impact?
Yeah. I guess along that thread then, like as you going back to starting EMP, what are some like maybe some assumptions or like naive dreams you had for the city?
Yeah.
And have you seen some come true? And are there others that you're like, we're still, like even in your work now at CBCF, like we're still moving and working towards that thing?
Well, I think things are still moving, of course, because like we haven't seen the quote unquote transformation that we always talk about. With ENP, like one, I didn't realize we were going to grow so fast. Like the timing, the Lord was working. The timing was churches were ready to engage in our neighborhoods and with our schools. So, ENP grew really fast.
You were hoping to have like 12 churches join each year for 3 years, right? I remember seeing some original.
Like four a year.
4 a year, to have 12 in 3 years.
Yeah, we were at 35 in 3 years.
Yeah.
Wow.
That's too fast.
Yeah.
I mean, I was like, I'm a go-getter, so it's like, sure, let's do it. And, I would say that, and I think Andrew can speak into this maybe a little bit more in the last 5, 6, 7, 8 years, is like the church was in a different place back then as it is now.
Correct.
I think COVID had some impact on that and things like that. So like they were hungry to do this community work. But unfortunately, like when the driver, like I was a volunteer for the well, and I don't know, maybe I hadn't really thought about this until this conversation right now. If I had just like stepped aside, would that have all fallen apart? I don't know. Not at a certain point, no, because Garth and other folks were on it too. It wasn't just me at that point. But I did learn that with some of our partnerships is that when that key volunteer
Leader,
person just moved or got married or season of change or something, there was no one to step up for them, and it just wasn't the highest priority maybe for a church to fill that role. Yeah. So, I don't know, Andrew, how you feel now about, of course I love the church. I'm part of the church, but there's great things about the church. There's some struggles with the church. That's the reality of life.
I think we've been on such an COVID decimated I think, it slid or fast forward. Everything said is like the trend just fast forward 5 to 8 years of where the church was. People that were on the edge of dropping out, dropped out quick. And then I think you had the political climate has changed dramatically. Like the issues of city service, of justice have been politicized in a way they just weren't, 10 years ago. And I think, churches are struggling to take care of what's internal, let alone external. And I think we're just so busy as a culture. So I think we were in a moment moving from overseas mission to local mission, and people also didn't have things locally. So we were the option. Yeah. I think, I love it when churches have, I think of like a Action Church in Clovis. They're all about foster youth. They have their thing. And so some churches just have their thing, and it's not us. And again, it doesn't need to be EMP, but
just do something.
Do something.
Yes.
I'd love to just hear your heart for this. I look at the markers of your ministry, whether it's at the foundation, EMP, or even before, but is partnership and collaboration and just an open-handedness with how you enter space, how you make connections. Why is that of value to you? Why is that how you hold space together?
Yeah, I've always had the mindset is like no one person can actually make the biggest difference. You can start, you can play your role, right? So partnerships, I mean, gosh darn, we were every neighborhood partnership. We realized from day one that partnerships, and I would say that when the first year it was all church school partnerships, but I quickly realized like, man, this got to be beyond churches. Like, so we got the universities, the colleges involved, and businesses and other nonprofits. And then I saw the value of that, right? When they're in sync with each other and they actually can they're compatible, they can build off of each other, and collectively they have stronger capacity. And so I still have that mindset. I think about it like how I'm adding like businesses in a different sense. Like I have a conversation with my friend Scott Shahadi at Producers, and like I love how he thinks about, I'm a business owner, but how do I steward my employees? Yeah. It's like, like that's every business owner I feel should be thinking that way, not just like the paycheck, but as them. Well, what's your role in their upward mobility socially? And you're already feeding into the financial upward mobility, and hopefully you're paying them well. And right, but what does an institutional leader like? What is Joe Prado, our new Department of Public Health director? Like, what's his role in stewarding his staff, right? Whether you have small staff or large staff, like what if we all think that way as stewards of people and shepherds of people, I think we can get somewhere in a different place. So that's just ingrained in me. Yeah. I don't, some people don't get it, and that's, I get why they don't get it. Partnerships are hard.
Yeah.
It's because you have to build relationships and you have to build trust, and you genuinely have to find that right puzzle. And sometimes the puzzle doesn't fit at that moment in time, but
could come back later.
Yes.
Yeah. Yes.
Yeah. The lack of transactionalness of you, I think, is just a rare gift that our city has benefited from.
Yeah. Well, thanks.
Yep. You have a really unique vantage point of the city, of the neighborhood, of residents. You get to spend a lot of time with them, and hearing directly from them, like what they desire, their hopes, their dreams for their futures. What's something that's kind of keeping you up at night right now about the city, or things that you've heard that you're like, we could move the needle on that one?
Yeah. Well, I mean, obviously currently like our immigration issues and what's happening with our immigrant community, with the fear that's happening, that's a big part of our population, right? Now thankfully, we've not seen it at a mass level here, like in other cities, and hope we don't. Because that impacts workforce, our economy, and we've got data that shows like how horribly that could impact our economy if that gets hit really hard. So unfortunately, that just adds a new fear in their lives when in lives where they already have a lot that they have to deal with, right? People genuinely they want to advance as a human being, right? And then if they have kids, they want their kids to advance. Um, it's the systems that, to no fault of the folks that are leading the systems now, it's the systems that were either created in a way to not help certain people, or are so antiquated they're just not situated to work in today's world, right? So that the systems change is like that's what Jive's all about. It's what we're thinking about all the time. How do we change the speak into the education system, the judicial system, even the business ecosystem, right? And how can, like my example, with Scott and others, is like how do we get more business owners to think a little bit differently? And even nonprofits, nonprofits can.
Yes,
We've got our own issues,
Yeah.
right? With service-based is great. There's the emergency service you have to have, but man, we need more to be thinking about, honestly, like how do you put yourself out of business, right? That's where we need to be. And that's hard because folks, that's what they know how to do well, and they know how to tell that story of immediate support. And like, how do we do that? Yet also, how do we get them out of that food line? How do we get them out of being on public assistance? How do we get them out of a rental home that is not livable, right? And so you need to have a good job that pays well. So does that mean you need to get back on the education track, or do you just need some skill building, upskilling, right, to get in that? And do you most likely, if like a lot of our families, individuals, they need someone to walk alongside them, right? Because it's easy to fall down and just say, screw this, right? So it's like this isn't going to work for me. So, which is why I really love what Neighborhood Thrift is doing, since they got created and have really grown, is that workforce development for a specific segment of our population that really honestly no one else can work with, that knows how to work with, right? So you can't send folks from Neighborhood Thrifts to Workforce Connection because they won't know how to work with it.
That system is broken.
Yeah.
I was on a call with AP yesterday, and it was like we were talking about Workforce Connection, just how it's a broken system that actually can't protect the most vulnerable and get them a high-paying job and placements. So you have to have these organizations that do it.
Yeah. Well, and some would say, and maybe it's true, that it's not a broken system. It's working perfectly for
how it's designed,
who they're supposed to serve, right?
Yes, that's true.
And so I'm going to say, okay, do that, but we need to add
a new layer.
Another, and that's a big thing right now that my colleague Julie and I are looking at. Is like, what does it mean to reimagine workforce development, right, for all of our population, right? And how does the money that flows in for workforce development, how does that get divvied up differently?
At Every Neighborhood Partnership, we believe that strong, vibrant communities start with engaged, empowered residents. But to make that happen, we need your help. EMP is on a mission to connect neighbors, create opportunities for local leadership, and transform neighborhoods through education, collaboration, and advocacy. And every dollar you donate goes directly to supporting programs that make a real difference. Whether it's providing land use education, elementary literacy mentoring, or healthy spaces to help kids and families grow. When you donate to Every Neighborhood Partnership, you're not just giving money. You're investing in a future where every neighborhood in Fresno has the tools and resources it needs to thrive. Your contribution, big or small, helps ensure that our communities have a seat at the table in the decisions that affect them most. So if you believe in students excelling, community members that are healthy and whole, and our neighborhoods thriving, we invite you to make a donation today. It's simple. Just visit everyneighborhood.org or tap the link in the show notes to give. Your support helps develop the next generation of leaders like Fresno depends on it. Donate now to Every Neighborhood Partnership.
Going more on the, I don't know, I guess personal side of at this work. So you've been in this work for 3+ decades. And we talked about the trauma and resilience. One of the other side of trauma is there's a lot of resilience. There's practices of resilience. There's things that we can do to create buffer and support and space to clear our heads. How have you stayed at this work for so long? What are the practices that you've had personally, just as a leader who's in heavy spaces, works a lot of hours, and has maintained empathy? I think a lot of other leaders get jaded and step away or hard-hearted. How have you, stayed at this work, maintained your sense of presence with others, and what are some of those resilient practices?
Yeah. Well, I think the work that it's my calling. It's anchored in my faith, right? So if I didn't have that, it'd be easy for me to walk away and just kind of do my thing and make my money, go home, watch football, and sit down on the couch.
Go Raiders, right?
Yeah. Well, okay. That's another podcast. So that is if so long like. And I'm getting to the latter stage of my life, so I can choose where I work, and I'll choose as long as wherever I'm at aligns with my personal calling, right? I'm a big fan of like wherever you work, does that job's mission align with your personal mission? Yeah. If it's way out of whack, maybe it's time to look for another job. I'm thankful I'm in a good place to choose where I can work, to do the things that I want to do. But some practical things, I exercise every day, usually twice a day. So I get up really early. I do at least 30 minutes of cardio just to help me get me going. And then I get home, unless I get home really, really late. I'll get home and I'll work out a little bit more. That's a mental health. I know it's good for you too, but it's also my mental health break. Sleep well, and those patterns, go to sleep at the same time. You get your at least 7 hours of sleep for me, and eat well 70% of the time. 70%
You need a burger every once in a while.
I love a burger, cheeseburgers, and all that stuff. But if that, and then just maintain my spiritual, continual learning and health, then I'm good, right? When one of those is off a little bit, it's still okay. But when 2 or 3 it's a train wreck, right?
Yeah.
So, that, and thankfully, I love what I do. It doesn't seem like my weeks fly by, right? And I love what I do, and I get to work. I still get to work with the NP. I get to work with so many. That's the thing that keeps me going. I know there's a ton of other people that just love our city, love our families. Like they help keep me going. Because if it was just just me or one other person at 3, but there's a bunch of servants, great servants in this community that genuinely love our community. And
I think we're blessed that way, and it's unique in that way.
Fresno's a special place.
Yeah.
We've got, if you think about all of the horrible data on Fresno, man, we should be even more messed up, to be honest with you. But it is that resilience. And unfortunately, our families have had to build up that resilience. I remember very early on in ENP, I was out it's during the recession, launched a nonprofit in the middle of a recession. And, but I remember asking someone, I think it was in the West Side, at a community meeting, it's like, how's the recession impacting you? He gave me a quizzical look, like, recession? I'm always in a recession. This recession's for them up north. This is not for us down here. I go, okay, yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
That's right. Yeah. That's right. So, that's that. Once again, that also speaks into the challenges that they deal with every day.
Right. Yeah. As we end the podcast, what are you excited about right now in your work? And even as Andrew asked you about like what keeps you going in it, what's your encouragement to other nonprofit leaders maybe that don't have as many years as you do doing it? What's the encouragement for
and
them?
some have more years too.
Yeah.
I am grateful that we have a stronger civic infrastructure. I mean, Drive's been investing in that. ENP's been helping to be an intermediary for that. I am seeing more residents that are informed and using that newfound knowledge to speak into things, whether it's at their kid's school, at City Hall, at a school board meeting, board of supervisors meeting. I want that trajectory to continue. That's how we're going to change the city. If you civically engage as many residents as possible. We use the number 30,000. I learned this from Dr. Gendian. If 3.5, the 3.5 rule, if you can get 3.5% of a population to start change, to create a little movement, then you actually can get some big change happening. So 3.5% of 550,000 people is 30,000. So that's our drive numbers. We activate 30,000 people in the community, then we can get some stuff done. So, and I'm seeing that in smaller numbers right now. We're mobilizing a lot, but that's not quite yet civically engaged. So if you go volunteer out in the community once a year, that's a part of service. But when I think about meaningful civic engagement, is you're actively engaged and speaking into things in your world, the things you care about. So I'm excited about that. I would say if you're a CBO leader and you're feeling the weight of things, don't do it alone. Find a group, to do things with. It's no different than church. You find life groups, right, to grow spiritually. You have to grow as a CBO leader. Don't do it alone. That's a recipe for bad things. And there's other folks that are willing to walk alongside you. Folks call me. In fact, ironically, I'm going to go meet a leader right after this meeting, right? And he's just down the road. Yeah. He's new. He's a brand new executive director, and I just want to make sure that he's not feeling isolated, right? Because this work is hard, and he's knee deep in immigration work too. So I'm sure that's very taxing. So that would be my one thing is make sure you're surrounding yourself not just with your staff. That's kind of your first core, but who are the like-minded folks, maybe in the same area of service, but it doesn't have to be. Find your folks that you can walk alongside with. The ones that the folks that I see that are just very, very active year round, they have core groups that they go to, they socially connect with to refresh themselves.
So good. Well, thank you, Artie. Thank you for your investment in our city and for taking the time. And as we look to this next year, I think it's a good nod for all of us. Don't do things alone. Don't do life alone. Surround yourself with a cohort, and I'm glad to be a part of that with you. So
yeah. Likewise. Thank you for what you're doing. And if you're hearing out there, donate to ENP.
Amen.
There it is.
Thanks for joining us today, everybody.
You.
Thanks for tuning in. If you want to find out more about EMP, you can visit us at everyneighborhood.org or follow us at EMP Fresno. Every Neighborhood Partnership and this podcast exists to activate, equip, mobilize, and transform here in Fresno and beyond. If you liked what you've heard, please share and review what's good in the neighborhood wherever you listen. We'll see you next time.